Good evening. It is March 9th, 2023, and I'd like to welcome you and to call to order the meeting of the South Brunswick Township Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the board secretary has caused notice of this meeting, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the South Brunswick Public Library and the board office, filed with the township clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. Roll call, please, Mr. Pawlowski.
Julie Ferrara. Mrs. Laura Hernandez. Here. Mrs. Deepa Karthik. Here. Ms. Alicia Khan.
Here.
Mr. Raja Krishna. Here. Mr. Mike Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Here.
Dr. Smith of Raj.
Here.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Ms. Ferreira is unable to attend as she has tested positive for COVID. She is watching on Zoom, so feel better, Julie. Can I have an approval of the meeting agenda? Mr. Mitchell? Second. Dr. Raj? Any comments?
Madam President, I want to make a motion to amend the consent agenda for a withdrawal of the approval of policies 4216, 5512, and 5722.
Any comments? Motion? Can we have a second for that? Thank you. Can I have a all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Very good. So we will move those three, Mr. Pawlowski, Board Secretary, to move those off the agenda. Okay. Next, I would just like to comment that we received from Cambridge School a letter to the South Brunswick Board of Education from Cambridge School in recognition of World Kindness Day. The Cougar Council of Cambridge Schools sponsored a random acts of kindness bingo for our students to participate in. We received several thank you notes, which I'm going to allow the board to take a look at after the meeting. They are cards and pictures written from Miss Russo's 5th grade class, who chose to write to the volunteers on the Board of Ed as one of their bingo board squares. We hope that their words and messages will brighten our day to the members of the Board of Ed, and a sincere thanks to the members of the Board of Ed for all that we do for the students and staff of South Brunswick. And it was signed by Christina O'Brien, the Cougar Council Advisor. Thank you, Christina, and I will make sure that all the board members get to see it. Moving on, we will have a report by our student representative, Ms. Ria Christman.
Hi everyone, good evening. So just an update on some of the things that are going on in our high school. 80 DECA students competed at the regional competition this past week at Harrah's in Atlantic City. A special congratulations to the following students who qualified for the DECA International Career Conference in Orlando, Florida. Bhargavi Karthikeyan, Bhavna Bangalore, Arya Koljanvi, Advaith Bhupalam, Rohan Patel, Kayan Patel, Harshini Dinesh, Safik Modam, Ansh Rana, Nitya Ravintala, Karina Saxena, and Arya Kolaji. Our robotics team had a great season. All 6 teams qualified for the New Jersey State Championship held at the Bell Works building in Homedale on March 4th, 2023, for the 3rd consecutive time in 9 years of the club's inception. All 6 teams placed in the top 35 out of 100 plus teams in New Jersey, and 5 out of 6 of the teams made it to quarterfinals, while 2 made it to semifinals. Team 750B made it all the way to the final qualifying match, qualifying them for the VRC World Championships to be held in Dallas from the 24th to 27th in April. Team 750B also ranked first place in New Jersey with their top skill score. This feat double qualified this team to making them the first team ever to qualify for World Championships twice in the same year. So huge congratulations to them. Mr. SBHS is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and we could not be more excited. We have 16 contestants ready to take you on a trip through Broadway while showcasing their school spirit, talents, and more. We will be raffling a ticket for senior prom there as well, and any attending senior can enter to win. Be sure to get your tickets now. Ticket sales end at 2 p.m., but they'll also be sold at the door. South Brunswick High School's drama club, the Pirandello Players, started rehearsal for their spring musical Chicago, Teen Edition. Chicago is one of the longest-running American musicals in Broadway history, and we're excited to bring it to the South Brunswick stage. Our show opens on May 4th and runs until May 6th. It's rated PG-13, and for more information, you can contact Miss Jillian Trader. Moving on to athletics, the dance team traveled to Orlando, Florida to compete in the National Dance Alliance National Championship. The team placed 28th in the game day division, 15th in jazz, 6th in team performance division, and were national finalists in the pom division, where they earned 11th in the nation. So huge congratulations to our South Brunswick dance team. For boys winter track, Demarion Potts won both the long jump and high jump at the Eastern State Championships and the New Jersey State Meet of Champions this past week. It was Demarion's second straight high jump state championship. For bowling, Daniel Dixon and Mega Tanalear were named to the GMC All-Red Division bowling team. Julian Vasquez was named to the GMC All-Red Division bowling team and the GMC All-Conference bowling team. For boys basketball, the boys basketball team ended its season last week with a trip to the sectional finalists at Trenton, where they fell a little short in their quest for a championship. The boys want to thank all of their supporters for making the trip down to Trenton and for all the support throughout their journey. The Vikings finished the season with 20 wins while reaching the championship game in both the county and state tournaments. SBHS spring sports tryouts begin on March 13th for boys tennis and pitchers and catchers for baseball and softball, and March 16th for baseball, softball, golf, lacrosse, spring track and field, and boys volleyball. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Krishman. Any questions from the board? None? Very good. Thank you so much for your report. Next order of the business is a report of the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Scott Fetter.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. You're either here for budget, probably, or you're here to support all these great kids up here. So I'm going to first congratulate all of our National Merit Commended students tonight. You're going to have your own little presentation shortly. And then after you're finished, we will give a little moment if you want to leave. However, tonight might be a night you choose to stay, hear about the budget, and everybody else will get through the budget. And that'll be the big, to-do for tonight. I have a few reminders before we get started. I want to talk about our Parent Academy workshop. We have a social media and your child workshop coming up on March 28th. This is a big one. And there's some, they're going to teach you how to manage and try to do your best managing the challenges of working with social media. Now, you kids are all good with social media, right? You all behave well on social media? They're like, sure, Mr. Fetter. That's what you want to hear, yeah. A big event, Parent Academy. Hope you can come to that one. Another important thing happening right now, we have an educator and educator support person of the year. You'll get information about that, or you probably already did. Submissions are due by next Friday. So if you have someone that is that special teacher or special support person, support people are considered secretaries, paraprofessionals, custodians, bus drivers. Then the teacher side, educator side is teachers and anyone else who's an educational specialist. So hopefully you'll be able to submit and get some people nominated for that. If you have a special education child, a special education parent advisory group is hosting a special needs resource fair on Saturday, March 25th at the high school. And this fair will offer you the opportunity to speak with various service providers, agency organizations. So another great event to be able to network and come to another event to learn about various things going on. A few more great announcements. Annie is going to be at the Crossroads Middle School. So that is happening, that's happening this weekend, starting tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to come see Annie, check out the Crossroads Middle School. Very cool, interesting information to share. We have a robotics team. If you don't know we have a robotics team, you're going to now know we have a robotics team. 6 of our robotics teams, all 6 of our teams, went to the state championship. 5 of those teams went to the quarterfinals. 2 of those teams went to the semifinals. And 1 team they qualified for the World Championships in Dallas in April. So we have sending a team of robotics kids. But even more cool, that team ranked first in New Jersey in one of the competitions, which is their top skills score. And that score was 58th out of 20,000 in the world. 0.29%. Top 0.29% in the world. So it's great news. And now I'm going to talk about some more kids who do great things. Our Unified Viking athletes have been working very hard. We wanted to share that the Unified Bowling Tournament will be Sunday, March 19th at 9 o'clock at Bolero on Route 1 in North Brunswick. Please join, everyone in wishing these kids a successful tournament. That's going to be great. If you had a chance to see any of the Unified programs, I was at the basketball game, and it's heartwarming to watch. And so I encourage you, if you have nothing to do on the 27th, come watch some bowling. Mike, good program. Where are you, Mike?
Yeah, he's over down there.
United? Mike's our bowler guy, so he knows. Other than that, tonight we're going to get this going. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Lisa, and then we will get through our two important events tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Fetter. Any questions for Mr. Fetter? None. Okay. Next, we will like to call now Mr. Varela, principal of the high school, to the podium for our 2023 National Merit Commended Student Scholar presentation. This year, 66 of our students were named commended students. Due to the large amount of students receiving this honor, this recognition will be broken down into two parts, alphabetically, with the first half being recognized this evening and the remaining students being recognized at our board meeting of March 30th. We congratulate them and commend them on this accomplishment, along with each of their honorees and their parents. Mr. Varela.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. Tonight's board meeting is our second opportunity to honor students for their stellar performance on the PSAT this year, which is also the qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship Program. Being recognized by the National Merit Organization is truly one of the most prestigious honors for high school students to receive each year. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation recognizes the 50,000 members of each graduating class with the highest scores in the PSAT as either semifinalists or commended students. As Mrs. Rogers shared, we have 66 students this year who will be recognized as commended. Keeping with our practice, we invited our students to honor an educator who has made a significant impact on their life. Each student was asked to write a short letter thanking a faculty member. Tonight, each teacher will receive the framed letter. In addition, all honorees will receive a certificate of accomplishment from President Lisa Rogers and the Board of Education. So at this point, Mrs. Rogers, please join me at the podium. Before I begin, I would like to thank our high school art teacher, Mrs. Rebecca Bufus, for selecting a piece of artwork that Kenise Akhtar, a freshman visual arts student at SBHS, created for us. I'd also like to thank Mrs. Ramona Baker and Mrs. Marianne Murphy for their assistance tonight. So I'd like to start with the first row. If you could stand and form at the side. So as I start our program, I thought I'd share some of the colleges and universities that our commended students applied to. If you could take a look at the screen. And here are some of the colleges and universities they've been accepted to so far. All right, to begin our presentation, our first commended student, Aditya Agarwal. Okay. This upcoming fall, he plans on majoring in computer science and biology. And tonight he's honoring Roberto DeBarry, a member of the high school science department.
Congratulations, as always.
Our next honoree is Adrian Alphonse. This upcoming fall, he plans on majoring in computer science. Tonight he will be honoring Rachel Levinitis, a member of the high school math department.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Our next honoree is Rohit Bhagat. This upcoming fall, he plans on majoring in computer science. Tonight, he's honoring Caroline Ventry, a member of the Crossroads South Social Studies Department.
Congratulations. Thanks so much.
Our next honoree is Sejal Bhagat. This upcoming fall, she is planning to major in finance. Tonight, she would like to honor Janet Bogert, a member of the high school business department who could not be with us tonight. Our next honoree is Arjit Bose. This upcoming fall, he plans on majoring in computer science. Tonight, he'll be honoring Mr. Jeffrey Ruman, an assistant principal and former math teacher at the high school. Our next honoree is Krish Chadha. This upcoming fall, he plans on majoring in computer science. Tonight, he's honoring Shamila Shisti, a member of the high school science department. Our next honoree is Centrali Dige. Congratulations. This upcoming fall, she's majoring in biology and political science. Tonight, she wants to honor Scott Lawrence, a member of the high school science department who could not be with us tonight. Okay. Our next honoree is Harshini Dinesh. This upcoming fall, she will be majoring in finance. And tonight, she will be honoring Maureen Hartman, a member of Crossroads North Social Studies Department. Our next honoree is Arnav Goel. This upcoming fall, he will be majoring in computer science. And tonight, he is honoring Ms. Karina Alonzo, a member of the high school World Languages Department. Our next honoree is Siddharth Gumadapu. He will be majoring in mechanical engineering. And tonight he's honoring Ms. Erica DeWitt, a member of the high school technology department. Okay. Our next honoree is Sakath Ipagunta. This upcoming fall, he will be majoring in finance. He'd like to present Mr. Dennis Duncan, a member of Crossroads South and high school world language departments. Our next honoree is Pranav Jitesh. This upcoming fall, he'll be majoring in finance. Tonight, he's honoring Mr. Michael Dennehy, a member of the high school guidance department. Yes. Our next honoree is Parth Joshi. He will be majoring in political science and history. And tonight he will be honoring Lindsay O'Mara, a member of Crossroads South Social Studies Department. Our next honoree is Meghana Kakaroparthi. This upcoming fall, she will be majoring in neuroscience. Tonight, she will be honoring Ms. Julie Stadler, a fifth grade teacher at Monmouth Junction Elementary School. Our next honoree is Abiram Kandru. This upcoming fall, he will be majoring in computer science. And tonight, he is honoring Ms. Candace Cable, a member of Crossroads North Language Arts Department. Our next honoree is Swetha Karthikeyan. She will be majoring in computer engineering, and tonight she's honoring Ms. Amanda Auerbach, a member of the high school world language department. Our next honoree is Siri Keshava.
Congratulations. Good luck to you.
She will be majoring in neuroscience as well. Tonight, she's honoring Mr. John Lally, a member of the high school business department who could not be with us this evening. Our next honoree is Siley Lamaye.
Congratulations. Good luck to you.
She will be majoring in neuroscience. I see a pattern here. Tonight, she's honoring Ms. Marissa Carlisi, a member of the high school social studies department. Our next honoree is Olivia Ma. She will be majoring in biology, pre-dental. Tonight, she is honoring Mr. Mark Lalamia, a member of the high school music department. Here you go. You can give it to him.
Thank you so much. Here you go, sir.
Our next honoree is Kishore Madhav. This upcoming fall, he will be majoring in biology. And tonight, he will be honoring Mr. George Heffentrager, a member of Crossroads North Music Department. Okay. Our next honoree is Anwesha Mishra. She will be majoring in finance. And tonight, she's honoring Ms. Anastasia Marcella, a member of the high school guidance department. Our next honorees are Archita Naik. Archita will be majoring in computer science, and tonight she's honoring Ms. Chilla Mati, a member of the high school English department. Our next honoree is Shehar Nausar. He will be majoring in computer science. Tonight, he will be honoring Mr. George Miller, a member of the high school math department. Our next honoree is Sai Rithwik Nabaru. This upcoming fall, he'll be majoring in exercise and sports science. Tonight, he's honoring Ms. Crystal Burnett, chairperson and member of the high school science department. Our next honoree is Ved Nekude. He will be majoring in computer science. And tonight he's honoring Ms. Kimberly Greenberg, a member of the high school social studies department. Our next honoree is Prisha Nishar. This upcoming fall, she'll be majoring in biomedical engineering. And tonight, she's honoring Ms. Kristen Mallon, an art teacher at Cambridge Elementary School. Our next honoree is Amog Oak. He will be majoring in finance, and tonight he's honoring Ms. Kelsey Peterson, a member of the Crossroads North Language Arts Department. Our next honoree is Rivan Parikh. In the fall, he'll be majoring in computer science, and tonight he's honoring Mr. Eric Trost, a member of the high school business department who could not be with us tonight. Our next honoree is Rithika Pathuri. This fall, she will be majoring in computer science. And tonight she's honoring Ms. Lisa King, a member of the high school math department. Our next honoree is Swathi Pulapiti. This upcoming fall, she will be majoring in computer science. And tonight she's honoring Ms. Marisol Ciccone, a member of the high school English department. Our next honoree is Pooja Raghuram. She will be majoring in computer science in the fall. Tonight she's honoring Ms. Sarah Biscayno, a member of the Crossroads North Instructional Support Department who could not be with us tonight. And last but not least, Julia Yang. She will be majoring in pharmacy. Tonight she's honoring Mr. Timothy Burnett, a member of the high school science department. Thank you. All right, to conclude my presentation, I'd like to share with you a few quotations directly from the letters that they wrote tonight. So students wrote, "You opened my eyes to the amazing power of combining learning with fun. Thank you for showing me how to be a confident and successful woman. Your ability to spark creativity and seek inspiration from stories of all kinds is an admirable quality. Thanks to you, I always have someone to turn to when I'm confused and searching for guidance. And finally, your class was the first time that school truly became what I felt I needed, a space to be completely myself." So faculty, our students are very proud to call you their teachers and know that you make a difference each and every day. Another group that makes a difference is our parent group. I would like to now honor our students' parents tonight for their hard work and support. And here's a couple of slides with their names on them. I'd ask all the parents to please stand and be recognized. And finally, we have a truly talented group of students being honored here. It's important to note that our honorees aren't just high achievers when it comes to the PSAT. They are effective leaders, talented musicians and artists, athletes, and much, much more. Again, congratulations to our commended students, their honored teachers, and their parents. As I turn the microphone back over to Mrs. Rogers, please join me in one more big round of applause for them.
Thank you, Mr. Varela. That was a wonderful presentation. Congratulations again to all the students. You make South Brunswick proud. And to the teachers, we cannot be more proud of you. This is why South Brunswick is who South Brunswick is. And you do an amazing job with all the students. And to the parents, congratulations. I can only imagine the tingling you feel when you see your kid getting up there, getting that type of award. Can't wait for graduation. Congratulations again. Okay, I'd like to now move on to the presentation and call Superintendent Fetter and our Business Administrator David Pawlowski to the podium. They're going to give us a detailed breakdown of the tentative budget for the 2023-2024 school year. I'd like to also ask board members at this time to move to the front row in order to better view the presentation. And once again, as Mr. Fetter said, you're more than welcome to stay for the presentation. You might learn a few things about the budget. If not, you are more than welcome to leave. We'll take about a minute break.
So they let me go mobile tonight. All right, we're good? All right, welcome everybody. Thank you guys for coming out. So it's about 30 slides. So it'll take a little bit of time, but it's important that tonight the goal is to have the board members, staff, community fully understand the situation that we are currently facing. So for tonight, we're going to go through the school funding formula to a degree, not the actual formula, the impact on South Brunswick, some important understandings we want you to have, our actual budget to a small degree tonight, the options of how you might approach this, what we can do as a community for advocacy. We're also going to hear from Senator Zwicker tonight. I want to talk about preschool to kind of set the record straight. As you heard, we have a social media presentation in March. I advise people to go to that if they use social media and think that social media is designed to write whatever you want regardless of truth or fact. Please come so you can learn about that, and we'll close after that. So if you've watched any of my budget presentations before, we've been in what's called a deficit model budgeting situation for at least 4 years. Now, what that means is we work every year, when you roll over budget A to budget B, we work in a always cut model. We never have enough money to cover the next year to do exactly what you're doing on year 1 and year 2. Never. And the reason is there's a 2% cap on spending of the tax levy, not even of the whole budget. So when you do that and you add just the normal cost of doing business, we're always in a cut model. That would be fine, to be honest. I mean, I think we're at a stage right now where we're like, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone, cut us a little bit here and there, and we'll be fine. But the state of New Jersey has come up with a funding formula that uses some features which we'll talk about that is now has us not only in a deficit model to begin with, but compounded by significant loss in state aid with no way to recoup it. So this year, that's $4 million, which we'll talk about. So can't go above the 2% cap. 2% of the tax levy in this district is about $2.3 million. And we'll go through what that looks like. The 2% cap rule was put in place by Governor Christie at a time that was following a very large recession. Right now, we are in an inflation boom, as we all know, but the cap still exists. So if you can think of that, if all of your bills in your home went up by 8% and your income revenues only went up by 2%, what would happen every year? You would decide on what you're not going to do that you did before, or you're going to figure out how to get more money. That's the way it works. The good news is there have been massive rateable increases. Ratables, basically to keep it simple, how much money the town has so it can distribute who pays the taxes. The higher your ratables, generally the lower your taxes. It means there's more money to be paid for the same amount of tax that's collected. That's what that means, keep it simple. We have to align the expenditures to the revenues. We can't borrow, we can't do certain things that we as humans can do outside of a public setting. So for us, it's about a balance at the end. That is a brick wall. We've hit it. And we are there because we expected, and why did we expect it? Because the state told us. The state said, we're going to eventually take $8 million from you over 6 years. So we're going to give you a schedule of how we're going to take the $8 million. This year, we were scheduled to lose $1.277 million. That was bad. It was so bad, in fact, that we knew that this year was going to be the year where David did not have any more magic tricks to solve the crisis. Every year, we've solved this crisis without any real harm or pain. We knew going into this year, with a $1.27 million cut, we were not going to be able to do that this year. So we convened a full township-wide committee because of that. Little did we know, the actual reduction is going to be $4 million. And we'll show you what that looks like. Now remember, we felt we were in trouble at $1.2 million. Last week we found out it's $4 million, or an additional $2.8 million cut. That's what we're currently facing right now. We have to adopt a tentative budget by next Thursday. We found this out last week. The state's plan is that we should be able to figure out how to cut $4 million out of a budget in about a week and a half's time. That's the situation we're in right now. The total reduction, if you remember what I said, our general reduction was supposed to be $8 million. We still have 1 year left of S2 funding cuts. We've already lost $9 million. And we have a document right now that the state sends to every district that shows what your equalization aid should be. The document that we have in front of us today says our equalization aid paid by the state, that the state should be giving us $1 million. This year, they gave us $7 million. Now, all my math kids have left, but if you deduct $1 million from $7 million, it is very possible that we are looking at a $6 million cut next year, if that number is correct. Don't know. We didn't know it was going to be $4 million this year. We didn't know it was only going to be $250,000 one year when it was supposed to be $2 million. We are basically being asked to run a $160 million organization with unknown information. No way to predict at this point, except to say we should predict on losing $6 more million next year. That's the only thing I can predict based upon the information they've given us. Now, this is an important number. The formula that's used says that the town, they factor in the value, the worth of a town. Well, last year, the worth of South Brunswick was $10 billion. In this year's formula, the worth of the town is now $11 billion. So the state has said, well, if your town's worth so much money, why should we keep giving you money? We have this whole formula we've created, and that formula says you don't need it. The town should be paying it. Problem number one, I have no way to get it from the town. So even if the town said to me, Scott, we want to pay more in taxes. That's nice, thank you. Doesn't help. So there's a formula, which we'll talk about a little bit more as we go down, that's kind of hurting us right now. So we formed this township-wide budget committee I told you about, and what we did is we did it because we knew what was going to happen. We knew the budget impacts the entire community, so we involved people from the whole community. We have seniors on this, we have kids on it, we have staff, we have parents in the community, business owners. Whoever wanted to sign up, they signed up. We tried to get a diverse group of people that represented the whole town, and we put it together, about 40 people. So anyone could have signed up. I will say that we had no one from the township sign up. They were given direct invites. No one from the township signed up. I will be more honest, no one from the township replied. But that's the situation we're in. We did have seniors, we had staff, we had parents, we had students. They learned. In fact, we spent about 4 hours just learning about the budget. And well, first of all, who was on that committee? If you're in the audience, well, thank you all for coming out. So thank you. So you saw different people were on this committee. So we learned in the first 4 hours, we analyzed, and then we made recommendations. And you're going to see some of that work up here tonight. This is fun. Okay, not really. These are phrases. We asked after a period of time for the people who at that time knew we were losing $1.2 million, not $4 million. $1.2 million. What is your gut? Give us a phrase that kind of puts where your feelings are right now. I think some of our favorites were Champaign District on a beer budget. May look like a Cadillac, but don't look under the hood. Precarious, state sabotage. We're just trying to stay afloat. Sky is falling, preparing for a hurricane. That was at 1.2 million. That number ballooned to 4 million. Scott, you said that. I'm going to say that probably another 50 times tonight. It's that bad that happened. These people, and the reason I brought this slide up, these people were in depth in the budget. They were given everything about our budget. They were given 4 hours of straight learning and training about the budget. And this is how they felt at 1.2 million. I don't even want to bring that group back and ask them what they'd feel like at 4 million. So some other things we want you to understand. There's this thing called stabilization aid. So the government realized at some point, whoa, we got to do something for these districts that lost all this money. Now, we've lost $9 million, and I'm going to explain this. $9 million, that's each year. That's permanent. That's $9 million you can never spend again in the budget each year. Compounded, right? Each year. That does not grow, it does not change, it's just gone. So what we've got so far is $3 billion in stabilization aid. $3 million. So that $3 million we have right now to address some of the shortfall. We'll explain that as we go through the thing, but that's a number you need to know. Tax levy cap 2%, and I know you all know that by now, but this number is going to kill you if you don't know this already. The state of New Jersey just gave $800 million to other districts. $800 million, and took away money from 100 districts. $800 million. Our neighbors got up to $25 million in Middlesex County. $25 million. I can tell you, they'll spend it, but it's monopoly money at this point. If you gave me $25 million right now, I was describing this. $25 million, I could do this in this district. Every elementary grade in every school, I could give a math specialist, a reading specialist, guidance counselor, behaviorist, in just every grade in the school. At the high school, I can go 1 to 100 kids on guidance and substance abuse coordinators. And I wouldn't be getting anywhere near $25 million yet if I did all that. I wouldn't even be at half of it yet. That's how much money $25 million is. Next year, we're going to be scraping by to have one substance abuse coordinator for 1,500 students. Actually, it's more than that. It's more like about 2,000 students. And right now, a district that got $25 million could literally have one for every 100 kids. Can't comprehend the insanity of that. So $800 million distributed across the state to districts. Districts that look like us, by the way, like mirror images of us, got $6, $7, $8 million extra money. And we looked. You want to know what even's worse about that? They already pay more per pupil than we do. They are already spending more for their school district than we do. And they just got more money and we lost money. That is fact, not Scott making something up. So if he wants to write on Facebook, you can write that. That's factual. Some other things. This is real, and this impacts us. Our enrollment has gone down every year. In the formula, this is an accurate part of the formula, a meaningful part of the formula, we have a reduction of 2%. Now, we lost 20% of our state aid with a 2% reduction in students. Again, fuzzy math, very interesting math. The township's value has gone up $3.5 billion, from 8.5 to 11, 7, is it? 8.2. That's hurt us, believe it or not. There's been no reassessment of homes in South Brunswick. Barry, how many years? Long time. So we're going to work with the town and hopefully learn more about that, and hopefully there's something to do there. Some of our advocacy is going to be with our township, because I don't think they did anything to try and cause an issue, of course. But the formula is saying, you're so wealthy, we can't keep giving you money. I'm like, okay, then let me get money from the wealthy people. No, can't do that either. We're just taking it from you. And that's fine. You don't need it. You're good. We're going to give it to these people next door to you. $6 million a year, right next door to us, 4 years in a row. In that same time, we lost $9 million. Same size district. Love to have the explanation, but a real explanation. Just going to keep going. State funding formula has nothing to do with how tax is actually collected. They actually created a formula based on tax that has nothing to do with the ability to collect tax. You're like, what did you say? I can say that 100 times. It makes no difference. I can tell you there's a formula that exists that takes into account how much tax the town has paid, how much money the state pays. And they come up with a formula. And they say, well, your town has a local fair share they're not paying. So we're going to take money from you and not let you take it from them. That is the actual plan of the state of New Jersey. And we are on the back end of that plan. We got no stack of monopoly money. 20 of the 23 districts in Middlesex County got $125 million new dollars, and 3 of us lost $6.5 million. Now think of the stack of monopoly money, those little orange 500s. It's a lot of money. But when you're talking about $7 million for a district with 2,000 kids, it's monopoly money. It's literally monopoly money. It's unnecessary amounts of money. No begrudging to the schools themselves. And I know these people will use this money great and their kids will get awesome things out of it. But it doesn't change the issue. The state's funding calculation is built upon who they say should be funding the schools. But then they won't let you fund the schools. Here's my formula. You can't do it. In our town, if you look at your school tax, if you live here, you have not seen an increase in your school tax of anything level of substantive in 5 years. If you were paying $5,000 5 years ago for school tax, maybe you're still paying $5,000, maybe you're paying less. And nothing we can do about that to get money. So here's our situation. We started the year, this year, right now, we have $146 million. By the way, our full budget is larger than that, but this is the amount of money we're talking about. $146 million in our operating budget. Next year, when you take that amount of money and you say, I want to do exactly what I'm doing today on September 1st, just that, it will cost us $149.9. $3.5 million more. Salaries go up. Cost of energy goes up, cost of gas goes up. Whatever the costs that go up to operate a world of a business this size, it goes up. So that's just straight across. No cuts, no changes, no nothing. We need $3.5 million. The state has said you're allowed to get 2% of the tax levy from the town. We don't have to ask, we can just take it. So we do, because we have no choice, so we take it. So 2% increases us by about $2.3 million. I needed 3.5. So I'm in the hole before I wake up in the morning because I needed more than I have. Now the state has said, oh, and by the way, we're taking $4 more million from that. So when you add up those numbers, a balanced budget would require me to find $5.2 million in the budget. I'm going to show you what $5.2 million looks like. $5.2 million. Now, then there's things that we have to do next year. We have special ed costs that have to be used. We have costs for certain technologies that have to be spent. We bare minimized that, and it came out to about $635,000. So that is like we need to spend that. Sometimes you need textbooks that are out that just need them. You have to keep rolling with educating kids. So that 635 probably started at around $3 million in requests. And we took it down to the bare bones at 635. When I add the 635 to my already off balance of 5, almost 2, I'm at 5.8. That is our hole we have to dig out of now is $5.8 million because we have to float a zero budget at the end. By next week, David has to put numbers into a calculator to show we did it. I'm being filmed, and I'm telling you, that is going to be very good fiction, David. I'm impressed already. There's no way we're getting done by next week. It's a tentative budget. It'll balance, but it's going to have to be changed long more. When you give me a week and a half to find $4 million, you're getting what I give you, and that's all you're getting. And that's all we can do. We have to focus on kids and our community. The last thing we want to do in this town is have these schools go down the drain. Then people that don't want to pay taxes for schools that live in town, goodbye to your tax worth of your town, of your house, if the schools go down. It's all connected. So we need $5.8 million right now. That's what we need. So there's options. How do you get it? How do you do it? The first thing you do, and everyone does the same thing, you optimize your systems. You check to see if what I'm spending, what I need to be spending. Can I do this a little cheaper to get the same outcome? You all do this in your homes too. You decide, can I make this change live with that change, optimize my systems, make sure. Maybe the way I go to work every day, it's a little nicer, but if I do a little bit lesser, it'll save me a little bit of gas every day. Some little change to optimize the amount of money you have without changing anything about your living style. That's what we do first. Another option is you just cut. We just cut $5.8 million. It's easy. You just look on the chart, you see what something's worth, and you just chop it off. And I don't know that the state cares what the impact is. If they did, it's a weird way of showing it. We care. We know you care. We know our town cares. So that's one of the options. You cut. You also know what you can do. If you have expenses that exceed your income or revenue, you find more revenue. You find more money. You get a second job. You do whatever you have to do to raise your money to cover your expenses. It's the way it works. So we can increase revenues. The big revenue we want to try and increase is the tax the state is saying we're owed. Other than that, all the revenue is pittance money. $100,000 here, $100,000 there, which in a normal year is nice, $100,000. That's nice. But when you're down $5.8 million, $100,000, $10,000, $20,000, those numbers don't begin to even touch the issue we're dealing with. Then you can kick the can. Now, kicking the can in our lives as people, not as educators, is called a credit card. I think our country is known to have a crisis of spending more than we earn. We live above our means. Well, when you live above your means, you have to have a way to pay for that living. People go into debt. You take loans, you take credit cards, whatever it is. You can kick the can. We're going to show you how we can kick the can. And after you kick the can, you're hoping. People that spend and do that, they're hoping. They're hoping something is going to change. I'm going to get that promotion. I'm going to get that better job. Someone's going to leave me money. I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to gamble. Something is going to change. That's the hope. So we can hope and kick the can. But we believe you got to do all of it. We believe to solve this year, we have to optimize, which we've already done. We have to kick some of the can down the road. We have to cut, and we have to raise revenues. That's the only way we believe we can go through this. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing you need to hear, at the end of the day, we have to cut all the money until we only are spending what we have. That has to be the final outcome. It doesn't have to be next year, but it has to be. We cannot continue to kick the can and kick the can and kick the can. People that do that go from one credit card to another credit card to another credit card until all of a sudden the credit companies say, I'm not giving you any more credit. And then they want their money. Then you either go bankrupt or you figure out a way to pay. That's the reality of today. So we're going to go through how to do this. Optimizing means we're always looking to improve where we have revenue, how to do it, make more money. We review every budget for accuracy. David's still doing that right now with his team, looking to make sure every single line item is correct. We're assessing enrollment for potential reductions. When that happens, and that 2% reduction has been helpful, because if we can reduce something because there's absolutely no reason to keep it, nothing has changed, that's a good thing to be able to do financially. Don't like to do it. And usually the good news is when that happens, we have what's called attrition. So a human doesn't necessarily lose a job, but a position gets to get cut. And that's our best case scenario. And we can do that again some this year as well. So that's going to be used. We look for grants. We evaluate our systems and practices. You review our vendors, because our vendors are a lot of money. And there was a whole group of people that went through all of those contracts with David during the budget committee work. And there's a lot to do. I mean, you can't always do it. But these vendors, you know what they're doing? They're just raising their prices. They're raising their prices. So are private schools. We send kids to private schools. They're not bound by these rules. They just raise their prices, and we have to pay it. That's the way it goes. And we make sure that our fees, anything we do charge for, is competitive. That's what we do. So those are the things we do when you optimize. When you cut, if you're talking about $6 million, you want to start away from your center. And we asked our budget committee, what was the center? And their center was academics, mental health, safety, security. That was the center. And then right below it is all those other things that kids do that mean so much to them. That's how that came out. So we want to do that, right? We want to look at what we are going to not target in these reductions. When we cut, you need to go with a plan. You don't just cut. You look at a plan. So we're looking at, we don't want to touch mental and physical health. If you talk to teachers and you talk to principals and assistant principals and paraprofessionals and anyone who works with kids, the mental health of our students is definitely not where it was pre-COVID. It's not. The mental health of our staff is not where it was pre-COVID. This is the reality we're facing right now. We cannot do that. We cannot. I will tell you, I would float a negative budget and let the state come in and do it themselves before I would do that. If it comes to that, I just won't do it. So the board can decide to get rid of me and get someone who will do it, or the state can do it. But there's no way I'm going to cut mental health services in this district. Building level safety and security. I'm not going to cut that. I'm not going to start cutting keeping kids safe. It's not happening. Student academic supports, where those kids need support, and they need support at all levels for many things. We got to try and stay away from that. Try. And right now, this is a big deal in schools. And we have behavior management plans and behavior management programs. If we start to cut into those, I think we lose our teachers and our paraprofessionals by the end of the week. The paraprofessionals will start laughing, I hear it. We can't cut those things. So when we have to go around this, we have to look and see, well, how do we avoid certain things with $6 million in cuts? So interestingly enough, this next slide, these next few slides, this is from 3 years ago. In anticipation of what we saw coming. That's basically everything. $6 million, you start putting numbers next to these things, and you're looking at massive numbers. Figure every $1 million, if you're looking at teachers, about 12, maybe 13. So that's about 75, 80 teachers. If you look at paraprofessionals, it could be closer to 130. That's almost all of our paraprofessionals. Look at administration, it's virtually the entire administrative staff. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about finding $5,000. We're not at that stage. Dave and I start looking at the $25,000 cut mark when we're down to a few $100,000 left to go. When we're at $1 million, we're looking for $50,000 cuts. When we're at $5 million, if it ain't six figures, don't even bother yet. I don't even need it just yet. I need 6 figures at a time, and multiple 6 figures at a time. Otherwise, there's no way to do it if we're cutting the whole 6. So what would that look like if we did that? You'd have massive class size. You'd have no to less supportive behavior, HIB, family communications. Let's say you have one administrator in a building, you're just never going to talk to families. Family's going to reach out to you an email, you'll get an email response in 3 or 4 days. And by then it's too late anyway. But that's what will happen. HIBs will take longer, we'll be out of compliance. There's no way you'll be able to do it. And the behavior in schools right now, without all the support we give it, I can't even imagine what it looked like. And so we already lost our paras. I lose all the rest of my administrators by then. And some of you probably think I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure I'm not. I know they're sitting in the back right now. They're pretty sure I'm not either. All those great things that kids need and do to have successful, well-rounded lives, adios. Music program, pretty important in our district. Morning music, AM music at the middle school, goodbye. All the extra strings at the elementary school, goodbye. Possibly strings at the middle school, goodbye. Just keep going. Football, nice having you, another day. I was told when this first happened in 2010, cutting hockey was if you were like amputating arms in this district. We are at the stage where you're looking at much worse than that, especially if next year is a second to this year. We'll stop it maybe for a year, but the tourniquet only can last so long. The blood's going to be gone. Any student who lives within 2 miles, you will walk to school. Right now, that is not the case. A lot of people gone. A lot of people gone. There'll be nothing new. Those textbooks that need to be purchased, they just won't be purchased. The morale in the whole town, everywhere here, yeah, you see how you're feeling right now? Wait till it becomes reality. And your property value will decline in this town. It will not. You know why? Because everybody else just got millions and millions and millions of dollars. They can do amazing things. Like, I just want a piece of that $25 million, or a piece of the 7 or the 6 that everybody around us got. So that's cut. We don't like that one. Optimize we like. We can live with optimize. We like optimize. We don't like the cut one. Revenue is okay. Let's get more money. Revenue, I'm going to get a second job. So our second job, we did this with our committee. And all the ones in green were all the ones we talked about. Extraordinary aid. That's another aid we get from, that's been good. That's been a good thing. They've given us a good extraordinary aid. David's going to look at that and see if we can raise it. Investment income. David always looks at how do we get more money. Tax levy, we already talked about 2%. Pay to play, I'm telling you now, it's going up. Hasn't changed since 2010. If you want this budget to actually happen and you want sports and clubs to continue, there's no way you're keeping it at the current rate. And we could be looking at significant hikes to that number. Facility rentals, for people that ever rent, way up. Shared services with the town, we have to work with the town, see what can make the most sense. How can we do this? What's the best way? Food service, cost of food could go up. All of it. Everything that you normally do for a school that should be free and will be free in every town in Middlesex County almost, except for maybe one other. It'll be free. And we're going to be charging you through the nose for it here. That is the reality of South Brunswick by September 1st, if nothing changes. Summer Institute, $1,200 for a class. Maybe it's going to be $2,000 a class. Maybe only $1,500. It ain't staying $1,200. We need revenues. We need money. You want extra? You pay. This is insane to talk like this. This is insane that I'm talking like this with $800 million just distributed to 200,000 kids? 140,000 kids, or 1.4 million kids, actually. 800 million for 1.4 million kids, and we lost $4 million. We're looking for donations. There were some really good ideas out of the committee. Do this whole real program with graduates and alumni, really cool things, but that's not going to get us enough money. Like when we were talking about these things, we're like, all right, if we can find $25,000, that'd be great. We're so past that. It's just $25,000. Just imagine, I'm saying $25,000 doesn't even start a conversation right now. That's where we are. So there's this. This is called a second question. This is a way to go get money from the town. The rules of a second question in their current form is for us to go to the town and ask for more money, we have to designate why. So let's use an example. The example I'm going to use, I think I used earlier with somebody else today, was guidance counselors. We want to keep our guidance counselors. We all value mental health, so we are going to keep our guidance counselors. We're going to go to the town and say, here's the amount of money we need to pay all of our guidance counselors and our behaviorists and everything to do with mental health. We're putting mental health on the block. And now the parents get to say, all right, we value mental health. We'll pay for that. Now, what if they say, we won't pay for that? Then you can't do it. That's the rule of the second question. So we're currently working with the county on solutions to how to even go to ask for money from our taxpayers. If they don't want to pay it, I get it, but we have to try and ask. It's not coming from anywhere else at this moment in time. Hopefully it will. But this second question, extremely dangerous. If you ask for it and don't get it, you can't do it. Concrete example, we want the football. We want football. We're going to ask the town to vote for football. The town says, nah, not really interested. There's no more football. You can't choose to have football if you don't get the money in the vote, if you put it on the block. So second question, very dangerous. And even to do that, if we're currently paying for it now, to even be allowed to do it in a second question, we need special permission. We can't just do that. We can't just go to the town and say, hey, second question, we need $3 million, everybody. Can you just give us $3 million? It's not, you can't do that. We went to the county, we talked to the county, can't do that. So right now, we're trying to figure out how maybe we can do something with this, but it's really supposed to be used for something you don't have that you're looking to have, not stuff you already do and pay for. So it's a little bit tricky. We're still learning to see what's possible and if we're still in time to be able to do it. That would happen, though, in November. May 15th, I have to fire everybody first. May 15th. So even if they say yes to that, on May 15th, we got to get to zero. We can't do that. So it might help for the future, but May 15th is when people get their pink slips if we can't afford to keep them. Last, we can kick the can. I couldn't find a good kick the can, so I just put a can. But everyone, if you want, just get up there and kick it. I want to kick it. So kick, stabilization aid. Can anyone in the audience remember how much is our stabilization aid? Very nice, thank you for paying attention. $3 million. We can use $3 million right now. You take $3 million and just use it, all of it. If we use $3 million today, what have we not done? We have not cut $3 million. But you have no more money. That $3 million gets used. What do you do next year? It's no more money. You hope that someone gives me $3 million again. Because if not, we start the year minus $3 million for the next year. And if we lose money again, the 5.8 that we're playing with right now starts at 8.8. So you can kick the can, but if you don't win the lottery, I don't know what you're going to do. So when you kick the can and you want to use something like stabilization aid, you better have a plan for what you're going to do in year 2. So you can say, well, we can use half of it now, half of it later, half it now, maybe half of the half later, and then slowly wean your way off of your credit cards. Because that's all that is a credit card. It's a one-time hit. You can't take away $9 million perpetual dollars and replace them with one-time hit of $3 million. It's ludicrous. Yet, I'm happy we got it, but it's ludicrous. It's a defunct model. Cannot do it. But we have to use it because, like I said, we have to use all of our everything we have. That's one thing we have. We have to figure out how to use it responsibly. So we're not putting the district in a horrible place in 2 or 3 years from now. Districts that have done that are looking at far, far worse than what we're looking at right now, if they've just kept kicking the can because there was no other choice. There's a thing called fund balance. What fund balance is an amount of money you carry in your budget. It's rainy day money, but you also need it to cover whatever you used in year 1. It's that hole. I need to carry that much over next year. If I use $3 million from stabilization aid, my fund balance right now, by the way, is we carry $4.6 million. Now we can raise it as a revenue and just say we're going to put, but what you're doing is you're literally robbing Peter to pay Peter. There is no Paul because you're both Peter. You're taking money from yourself and you're saying, I'm going to hold this money and pay myself with it next year. That's what fund balance basically is. David, the principals know this and the supervisors, David every year will send out a letter that says the budget's closed. They're all laughing, going, yeah, he already did it. Because he has to make sure we have $4.6 million left to cover next year's fund balance. If you borrow the stabilization aid, his number goes from 4.6 straight to 7.6. That's what he would need to cover, which means you can't budget $3 million of spending the next year because you'll never find it. That's what it means. But we can do a little bit. Maybe instead of 4.6, we can go to 5.1 and find $500,000 there. And then next year we just squeeze a little tighter and we find he shut the budget down 3 weeks earlier maybe. And that's how we do it. Remember, pieces of all of our things, all of our weapons, we need pieces of all of them. Our reserve accounts, we have surplus accounts. You know your savings account at home? If you're using your savings account to pay for your monthly bills, that has a deadline when you no longer can do that. And the devil eventually wants its due. We can do a little bit of that, but we cannot liquidate your surplus. But David, I'm going to tell him our plan. We have a really good plan. We like our plan. Our plan is really good. David and I will solve the budget this year with no cuts. We will up the fund balance by $3 million and use all the stabilization aid. And then we will leave. And the next superintendent and the next business administrator will look like they're horrible superintendents and administrators because they won't be able to solve the budget problem. And we'll just be laughing in Caribbean. That's the plan that we have. That's the backup plan. Is that the plan B? Plan B. Plan B. So we can use some stabilization aid. We can do some fund balance. We could take some reserve accounts, little pieces of everything. Take some of the surplus. We could take some of it, but can't liquidate it all. You know, what do you do when you retire if all of your savings is gone? Or you've lived so far above your means you can't put any money into any accounts. And then you turn your retirement age and you're looking at your accounts, you have nothing in it. You have to keep working. You just got to keep working. Or hope that something changes and you get money. Unfortunately, while Dave and I like hope, we cannot use hope in the way we do our jobs. We can have the hope, but we cannot operate and make decisions on hope. That we cannot do. I am hopeful that the state realizes this is a problem and tries to fix it permanently, not with just stabilization aid. Permanent fix. Actually looks at what's happening and says, whoa, yeah, I know that 500 of the districts are swimming in dough right now and are happy, but 100 are drowning. I believe our legislatures do not want that to be the case. I believe that. I have to believe that. So I can't believe people are out there saying, this is okay, this is good. I don't believe that. I know Senator Zwicker, who's here tonight, is not saying this is good. I know that. He'll talk to you in a few, but I know that he doesn't think that. I'm just hoping you have like another 100 friends, Senator. Or 150 friends, whatever you need, whatever the number is. Okay, so we need that hybrid approach, right? We need to do some cutting. We need to do some raising of the revenues. We need some optimization. And we also need to be using some of the resources. Surplus, stabilization aid, fund balance increase. We do it all. Our recommendation to the Board of Education in this community is we need to do it all. And we are going to present, by the end of April, a budget that is balanced and that has all features to it. We'll get as far as we can for next week. We don't really believe we'll be fully finished, but we will do what we have to do compliance-based. But that has to be the approach. If we try to cut $6 million in 1 year, it's just too much. It's too much. So we're going to have to wean ourselves off. But eventually, please hear this, we have to only spend the money we earn. Period. You cannot live like this. We'll get you through another year with some pain. You will have pain. If $6 million comes off the top next year, it's not even pain. I don't know what we'll call that. We'll think of a new name. We'll have a committee. We'll design a name. We'll think of it. So what else do we do? Advocacy. So first, we can testify. So I'm testifying at the Senate in Ramapo next week and at the Assembly on March 27th. Lisa, you signed up to testify. We need to do that. They need to hear from us. I'll try to keep it less angry. Try. Wish me luck. But they have to hear from these districts that are suffering from this. Because remember, our advocacy made a big difference with our school-based youth services. We were about to lose $550,000 2 years in a row. We fought, and we won so far. Supposedly it's in the budget, I believe. It's in next year's budget that we retain the money for our school-based, that's our bridge program, if you're not familiar. But our bridge program currently doesn't even reach North. So North doesn't have a bridge program, only South and the high school. We got to fix that. That costs money. How are we doing that? I could borrow money from any of the local districts near me, if that was allowed. And they're nice people. They'd probably even give me the loan. We need support from our county. We've done that. We've started the conversation. We have an awesome county superintendent, Kyle Anderson, awesome business administrator, Leo, and they want to help. Their hands might be tied, but they want to help. They are not shying away from us and saying, just, too bad. They're not doing that. They're trying to help. So if we can figure out a way together we're going to do that. So I'm still hopeful, but I can't make decisions on the hope. Does that make sense? I can be hopeful. I just can't make decisions on hope. Just can't. We want to organize our community. We've been asked already, how can we help? Organized. Letter writing, calls, whatever we have to do. Our board president happens to be a guru of this. She was working on that with a small committee on the budget committee as well, but we need access to doing that. People have to just hear what's happening because, again, I'm under the assumption our legislation cares. I'm under that assumption. But I'm also under the assumption they don't really fully understand what's happening. I have to believe that. I have to believe that our legislation, our governor, the people making these decisions cannot possibly be fully aware of what they're doing to some of the districts. Because I also believe they care. So if they care, they can't possibly understand. If they fully understand and don't care, that's too hard to feel. Right? I can't imagine we're being governed by people that truly just don't care about 100 school districts worth of children. I'm not there yet. So I believe there's care. We have to educate. We have to educate. That's why it's awesome to have Senator Zwicker in our town to help educate, because that has to be the answer. We're going to meet with the township. That valuation, that $11 billion, that's crushing us. Not that we're blaming the town in any way. They're just doing what they do. But we want them to hear how the formula is working and impacting the school district. So we've asked for a meeting with them as well. I believe that's being set up now. So that's really good news. And we're hopeful, but we're not making decisions on that. And lastly, we have our secret weapon. Senator Andrew Zwicker, who's in our audience today. Senator, would you mind saying a few words? Put him on the spot. You stay here. He's going to come over here. Yeah, the podium's got you.
Thank you, Scott. So, yes, I care. I'm here because I want to understand more. And I'm here to deliver, not a message of hope, but a message of a path towards making sure that this district gets the resources that it needs. So let me just spend a couple minutes. First of all, why do I care? This is my town. My kids went to school here. My kids are now out. They're actually out of college. They succeeded because of the teachers, the support personnel, the administrators of this district, right? Cambridge, went to South, went to the high school. I'm profoundly grateful to this district because, as we know, a public school education is really a community education. And my wife, Barbara, who is a elementary school teacher in a different district that also was cut, by the way, and so we're going through that in her district as well. We talk about everything when it comes to education, from the challenges of finances for the teachers in the room, SGOs and the ridiculousness of that. I know where the teachers are in this room right now. So you should put down sub-bullet, my secret weapon is my wife, because that's how I start learning. I want to thank also, as we go through some of this, Scott is a incredibly, incredibly important part of this. His advocacy, not to me, we talk often, but to the other superintendents that are in similar situations is critically, critically important for that advocacy piece. To the board, Mrs. Rogers, the whole board, Mr. Nathanson, who I've talked to recently, your advocacy as well. You've got a really hard job here. So, you know, that's the I care part. The thing we're here after Scott's presentation, though, is what are we going to do, right? Because when the Department of Education put out their numbers, and I got the first text going, it's probably not G-rated, but it came down to WT, and there's whatever letter you want after that. We were all scrambling, right? Really scrambling. What, Barry, you're going to tell me what the letter was? Because what Scott in the beginning of his presentation talked about was, it was already a bad situation. There was a number expected that was not a number anybody wanted, but a number that could be at least planned for, and it was a factor of 4 times that number, out of nowhere. And then you heard, okay, you've got 10 days, just tell us how you can do it, right? That, of course, is completely unacceptable. It's impossible. I know you're good, but nobody can do something like that, right? So, okay. There's a couple of mismatches here, but I can tell you that it's not just me, right? Because there are 100 districts, which means that there are 100 other legislators out there worrying about this. My secret weapon is just that I'm married to a public school educator. There is also another piece here, and there are rapid discussions going on. So there's another number. It's a really large number. It's $10 billion. That's the surplus that the state of New Jersey is putting aside for a rainy day. $10 billion. What Scott didn't say is that if you add up the 100+ districts that lost, he said, if you remember, he said there was $800 million added, but that 100 districts lost money. That total amount approximately is $160 million across the state, right? So there's $10 billion in surplus, $160 million in devastating cuts, right? Because the discussion we're having tonight here in South Brunswick is a similar discussion that's going around in a variety of different districts. And I can tell you that whether the cut is $4 million or $8 million or a couple times in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, when districts have already done in that tool box that Scott talked about, every last thing, there's nothing left to do. And so what's going to happen, right? Well, part of it is we don't know. I mean, that was an honest answer. But the advocacy is starting. I will be the testifying to Senate Assembly. That is the Senate Budget Committee. I'm a member of the Senate Budget Committee. I have talked directly to the governor and his senior staff. I've talked directly to the chairs of the Budget Committee. I serve on the Budget Committee. So we have to do a couple of things. We have to advocate quickly, because the mismatch, just so everyone understands, is the state deadline for coming up with a budget is June 30th. And we already heard that's too late. So we've got to move much faster. If this district has to make final decisions by May 15th or so, approximately around that time, then we need to make sure that the legislature has made their decisions and pushed money out before that. Because you cannot balance a budget on a hope and a prayer. You can only balance a budget on dollars and cents. So we are working quickly, very quickly, to ensure that when Scott went through all those horrible, horrible cuts, and 2 of my kids played football. Another one was a wrestler. Right? They did sports. None of them are on the robotics team. And some of you who know me, my background is in science, and that was devastating to me, but I'll get over that. And by the way, congratulations to the robotics team. That's, I know we're talking about the budget right now, but that's really remarkable news. But also, just going back, my wife grew up here. This was her high school. She was in the band, right? We know that the South Brunswick Marching Band is a nationally renowned band. And not only are we not cutting mental health, academics, sports, we're not cutting the band, right? And anything else that goes here. This school, this district, is too valuable to this community and to this state. So it's not a hope and a prayer. It's not a guarantee. We're somewhere in between right now. And with the advocacy that has been laid out here and making our voices heard and me fighting tooth and nail to make sure that those worst case scenarios don't happen, I have optimism. Right? I have optimism. And I think we can get this done. But we do need all hands on deck right now. Because the alternative is just simply not acceptable. Not acceptable. And so that's what we've got to do. Thank you, Mr. Fetter, for putting it forth like that. Thank you to everybody. And again, thank you to the board. Thank you to the parents who are here, right? Because my kids are out. Your kids are here right now. And so it's making sure we're fighting for this year. And I think Scott said something else I want to get to, right? We have two jobs here. Number one, fix the immediate crisis where we have but weeks left to do it. But two, what I really appreciate is let's fix the systemic problems that are going on as well. Because, I don't want to be back here next year having the same conversation. I will be if we need to. But if we fix the systemic problems as well, then we're doing right not just by South Brunswick, but we're doing right by the children across this state. And I think that's the other piece that we have to do. You laid out a bunch of what the systemic issues are. I think there are a few others we can come up with, but they need to be fixed. I've been talking to my colleagues in the Senate about it. So thank you for a few minutes, Scott. We have a lot more work to do, but I appreciate a couple of minutes of talking. So.
All right. I have to just set the record straight on preschool before we end tonight. Again, people share with me, I took myself off the Facebook pages of South Brunswick. I don't have the stamina for that. Unfortunately, people still think they need to tell me about these pages when they show up. So in this recent case, the topic was, there's going to be a budget presentation tonight. That turned into a level of insanity about preschool where I don't think I read one close to factual piece of information until a staff member got on there. And so I take blame for that level of ignorance in the community. I take the blame. I must not have been clear the first 50 times I said it. My bad. I'm going to do it better tonight, I promise. After tonight, if you go onto the South Brunswick Community webpage and there is still discussion completely saying incorrect information about preschool, please just go on there and correct it, please. And all you have to do is just say facts. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be emotional. Just straight, easy, simple facts. Preschool expansion aid has no correlation of any kind in any way to anything that we discussed tonight. At all. None. Zero. Nothing. In other words, I cannot say the $3.9 million we're getting for preschool, well, solve my problem. Just don't use it for preschool. It's only available for preschool. I can only use it for preschool. If I don't accept the money, there's no money and there's no preschool. It isn't take the money and apply it over here. So please, please, all the people in the audience, what am I allowed to spend preschool money on? Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can I take the preschool money and use it for 12th graders? No. Can I use it for busing 7th graders? No. Okay, that's step one. Step one. Step two, the entire preschool program is funded by the state. Who's it funded by? The state. Is it the taxpayers of South Brunswick? No. How much of the taxes collected in South Brunswick are going to go to the preschool program next year? 0. This is good. I'm feeling so good about myself. Okay. Before we got the money for preschool, we were spending $729,000 on preschool. So because we got the money, we now took the $700,000 and put that into the budget, because the $3.9 million is only allowed to be spent on preschool. Yes. Can we please put that on Facebook, somebody? Please. There is zero impact on the South Brunswick taxpayers, except that we got $700,000 that we used to spend on preschool and take it out of that because the state is paying for preschool, and take the $700,000 and offset our money. That's why it's not $6.5 million. So the only thing where I was wrong, no correlation to any budget issue, is absolutely incorrect. I apologize for being incorrect. It actually helped the district by $700,000. I cannot take the money and use it somewhere else. Remember, if I don't take the money, we have no preschool. And then I have to find $700,000 in the budget to pay for? You're the best audience ever. Yeah, I can teach this to preschoolers, I bet. You're right. Maybe I should try that tomorrow. Jamie, I'm coming over tomorrow to teach deans. I'm going to do some preschool work. What does free full-day preschool do for a district? Let's think of that for a second. In other words, should we do this? Because I think one of the comments I read was, it's too much work. It's a lot of work, I'll tell you that. And I know Suzanne sitting right here says it's a lot of work. Megan Plummer, if you're here, I know you're saying it's a lot of work. I know the principal's saying it's a lot of work. I'm saying it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But you know what it is? It's free preschool. That's pretty cool. And I don't know if you know this, but there's no impact to the South Brunswick taxpayer on free preschool. So, what does it do? This is more opinion-based, not necessarily factual-based, this one. I believe it increases the property value of the entire town. Because if you're looking for a home and you have multiple children under the age of 3, you have no preschool cost. It's pretty good. I don't know, people pay preschool upwards of 10? 12? Laura, how much we got? Oh. But we do it for free and no impact to the taxpayer. So I believe that. Scott believes that. I believe that's good for the town. I believe it eventually helps the town with taxes, with a property value. I believe that high-level preschool being offered to families where their kids would never have had school is huge for all kids. It allows us, when those kids get to kindergarten and beyond, to not need necessarily the same level of services because they'll have opportunities they never would have had before. It raises the bar of all students. It allows us to move forward faster and better for all students. My opinion. Improves the academic capacity of all of our students. David says something also. It's like, it helps the entire community. It builds community. It builds community early. We don't meet families until they're 5-year-old kids. Now we start to engage with our families when they're 3. That's pretty cool. Now, we're not at full preschool yet, right? I have to build up to it. But when we're at full capacity and we have all these families coming, it's awesome it's just huge. Well worth it. And the best part of it It's free for the taxpayers in South Brunswick because they pay nothing. The people using it pay nothing. The people who live in houses pay nothing. Nobody pays anything. If we choose not to take these funds, we lose the preschool and also have to find the $700,000 in our budget, period. That is the fact. And that is how I'm ending my preschool conversation. You really have a question about preschool? No question. All right. So in case they couldn't hear that, Smitha Raj, one of our board members, said it also helps them might attract younger families, therefore infusing more students to help with our enrollment issue, which might help our budget. Thank you very much. And how much is it going to cost the taxpayers? Zero. Very good. Thank you. All right, listen, I had to get that off my chest. Please do not send me any more Facebook posts, people. Just don't send them. I don't want to know. But here's my final note, and this is something that I think would be helpful for all of us to remember. What happens now is when people know there's going to be cuts and things are going to be taken, our people start to do things. Behavior changes when you think you're going to lose something. That's just a natural, a human outcome. So we must stay unified as a district. You heard from Senator Zwicker. We stay unified. We come out with a voice. We try to get things overturned so we can get this fixed at the systemic level. We advocate, and we do it vigorously. We do it often and vigorously. This is hard. Don't do this. We don't start saying it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault, if that person did this, if that person's not as important as this person is. I fear that is what happens in these matters. Don't do it. Avoid it. Do your best to realize we're all going to do the best we can right now. That's important. Stay informed, and we are going to correct misinformation. Because misinformation and the way social media works, it is almost impossible to manage. And when people go out and they say things, whether they believe they're true or they don't believe they're true, but they say them anyway, it's harmful to the mission of trying to get this very, very difficult task done of balancing that hybrid approach of managing a $5.8 million deficit. And we want to be able to do that without the chaos that should probably come with losing $5.8 million. I'm not promising that this is going to be easy, but David and I believe we have systems and possibilities using that hybrid approach to make it manageable to a degree. But it ain't pretty. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to be fine. Every other year we've managed this already. You have to remember this. Every other year we've been dealing with this. We've managed it without pain. Anywhere, no pain anywhere in the district. We're done with that. We can't keep that way, unfortunately. It's too much money. So we'll work on it. We promise to do the best we can. And that does conclude tonight's budget presentation. We added a budget meeting for next week, next Thursday. At that meeting, we will be asking the board to adopt a tentative budget that will be balanced. At this time, I'd like to ask the board to go back to their seats. Before we open up for public comment, Lisa, I think the board might have questions.
Thank you, Scott, and David as well. And Senator Zwicker, thank you for coming tonight. I think it's important that the community realizes, yeah, we are all in this together, so I thank you. Again, Scott, thank you. I'd like to open it up now. I have comments, but I'm going to allow, obviously, the board members first to comment or have questions. So I'm going to start with my left. If you don't have comments, I'm going to come back to you anyway. So anyone to my left? Go ahead. Dr. Raj.
Thank you for the presentation. At the cost of sounding silly, what made the valuation of the town go up by $1 million? I have been a resident and my life hasn't changed. I don't see the,
So
I don't see anybody in my neighborhood.
I think we're going to withhold answering that until David and I have a full understanding. That's why we've asked to meet with the town, to get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? On to my left? I'll come back. Oh, go ahead. You have another? Absolutely. Go
Just
ahead.
one more.
Yeah.
ELL, the number of ELL learners actually affect the amount of money that we get, right?
It's in the formula as a net risk.
Yeah.
Our ELL, according to what I looked at, had us go from 1% to 3% ELL. So
Yeah.
I'm not exact. That formula is a tough one, tough nut to crack. But I can tell you they mention it in the adequacy formula page.
Yeah, they did. So we have is there a way to game the game the formula? We have a very diverse student population.
ELL
bilingual, especially
ELL
the
is
bilingual one.
self-proclaimed. So
it's a
when people
self-proclaimed,
register, they do. That's how that happens.
So do
We'd
we
have to tell parents to just.
Yeah, do we encourage parents to
Yeah.
declare themselves as?
So I'm not sure which one of us goes to prison on that one. So if it's David, yes, I support that.
Not even laughing to that. Okay, good. Anyone to my right? I'll start with Laura. Ms. Hernandez?
I'm assuming that we're going to be able to see the budget and the magic that you and David worked before we're voting on this, correct?
So the tentative budget, you'll have, to the best of our ability, to give you what we have. But the real vote on the budget is the end of April.
Okay.
And by then, you'll have everything there is to see. You'll be able to look at whatever you want to look at.
Okay, so we'll have something before we do the tentative vote next week, correct?
Dave, what will we have before the tentative?
You'll have a budget that shows a zero balance at the bottom of the budget.
Okay, before we come on.
Yes.
Okay, great. And just one more thing, Smith, you were asking about ELLs students. Can I answer that question?
You want to ask the question of how we get more ELL students?
No, she asked how how we get them, or how we?
She's asking how we can get more of them.
Oh, okay. You can't unless they register.
Anyone else? Mr. Nathanson?
Thank you. I first would like to thank Senator Wicker for coming. Not only is Senator on board with it, both our assembly people, including the assemblywoman who sits on the education committee, is committed to working with the senator to come up with some kind of solution. But like Scott said, the solution is looking at the formula and coming up with some kind of formula that makes sense. So, that's one of the. There was an article in the Star Ledger like a day or two after the numbers came out. It was on March 6th. It said the 10 biggest winners and losers in New Jersey school aid funding this year. And they broke it down, which is interesting. They broke it down in dollars, and they broke it down in percentages. So they come up with some of the larger ones and that got money, and it's all the way up to the city of Newark that got over $114 million, something like that. And then it goes to the percentages on the winners, and it breaks it down and its size. And if you want to look at East Middlesex County, you have the number 2 regarding percentages. South Plainfield was 65%. 65%. So, even though it's a small district, they got a huge amount of money for what they are. Milltown was 37%. So then it goes to the 10 largest dollar decrease, and you go on the list based on dollars, and South Brunswick was number 7 in the state based on the decreased number. So, percentage-wise, that was the only thing we weren't in the top 10 percentage-wise. We're close, close. Scott brought up advocacy. Scott, it would be, I think it would be good to make it easier for the public to come up with some kind of thing that we could post showing the governor's phone number that they leave.
I'm gonna ask you to hold on that, okay? Because there's a plan, I'll ask you to hold on that.
Oh, okay.
Thanks,
Okay,
Barry.
there is a plan on that? Okay, never mind.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Nope. Yes, Ms. Carthy.
Mr. Farah, thank you so much for your presentation. I have one question, in fact, two. The preschool enrollment that we have, the numbers, do they impact the formula?
Yes, that the formula is solely based on the numbers. We are moving up from 150 to 250 regular education students next year. And for that, there's a formula for each student. And they pay us the formula, so I think it's about 14 and change to 16 and change for each kid.
Okay, let me rephrase that question. I think does that only impact preschool formula, or does that impact?
It's just preschool.
Also
You asked
that-
about preschool. For preschool, it's a whole nother separate entity from everything else.
I see.
They just give us, they say, how many kids can you service? We give them a number back in November, and when we didn't really know anything yet, and they said, okay. They told us when they gave us the state aid numbers that your preschool aid is $3.9 million, which follows the formula of X number of dollars times each student.
Where I was going with that is because the S2 formula that includes, or rather takes into account the number of enrollments that are dipping, the 2% that you said that we were facing in terms of enrollments cut. These students that are now in preschool will
Just
be
remember,
transitioned.
preschool has nothing at all to do with anything we talked about tonight. Nothing.
Guaranteed.
Completely separate entity in every possible way, no matter what question you ask. It's a completely separate entity from the K-12 universe.
Okay, so they don't take into account that these children will ultimately graduate to K in our district?
No, because they would have been with us anyway. In K.
Okay.
They would have just not started before K.
Okay. The next question I had is the balancing of the budget that we will see, the tentative budget, that will also in pure actual terms also identify the areas that will be impacted, right?
Oh, yeah. All of them.
That would be all spelled out.
The tentative budget will show where we're increasing revenues, where we're cutting, in a general term at this point. We're not at the stage of 100% accuracy on the cut, other than the amount. We know the amounts we have to cut in each kind of category. You'll know all of that.
Right. And the last question I had is in terms of the second question that you spoke about, right? So that, the responses to that really impacts our 2024-2025 budget.
Yes.
In the interim, of course, we are in this hole. But my question was, how will we make an assessment of what that question looks like? Because we don't know what the anticipated cuts are in 2024-2025. So we are dealing with two levels of variables here.
Yeah, the challenge of the second question is it's not really designed to do what we're talking about. That's what we're trying to say, because it doesn't really fit. Normally you're saying, hey, I really want this pool. So if you say yes, I'll get the pool. If you say no, I won't get the pool. But if I already have a pool, asking you to pay for the pool is a little bit tricky, right? So it's designed for, I don't have this yet. I would like it. I can't afford it. I'm asking the town if they want it as well. That's the design of it. We're looking to see if there's some other way to use it to help us out of this mess.
And will you be, who will you be consulting when you draft the second
To
question?
come up with that, well, ultimately the board.
Okay.
We'll come up with ideas as an administrative team And like everything else in the district, we make a recommendation to the board. So how we involve the community or the staff in that, we're just not there yet. We have to first see if there's anything we can even do before I start putting together teams. I can't have people do work to get nowhere. We have to know if we're allowed to do something with the second question, which is why Dave and I met with the county superintendent and county BA yesterday to try and get information on this.
Okay, thank you. I look
You're
forward to
very
hearing on
welcome.
that.
Anybody else? Ms. Hernandez?
Just want to follow up on her question. So having a second question on the ballot, that's not even until November anyway, correct? And you need to have the budget by the end of April, correct?
That's 100%
Okay,
correct.
so it's, okay, so the
So
timing
the second question doesn't,
even help us.
what it is, if you knew that we could go and ask the community for $1 million, let's
Right.
say, then maybe we take a little bit more of a risk with how much of hope and kicking the can we use. If there's no chance, you have to make different decisions. So with every time you make a decision in life, you're trying to make it with as much information as you have. All we're doing at this moment is trying to gather what possibilities exist to solve a very impossible situation.
Thank you.
At this point, we have no good information on the S2 being helpful at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else to my right? To my left? Okay, I just have a couple comments. There was a comment I heard out there when we were sitting here, that someone wanted to know what districts are
So they
receiving the money.
could go
What-
to, there's an online,
Yeah.
you can go, if you're looking for the districts, that's just Star Ledger, there's NJ.com.
The patch
It
has
lists
it.
them all the schools by all the money.
Yeah, because we don't want to criticize any district that's getting funding, good for them.
Yeah.
The issue is the formula. So I ask that the community recognize that while there are districts that are receiving a lot of money, you know, hey, if we were in that boat, we'd be cheering.
Yep.
So don't criticize those districts that are getting that money. It's the formula. And the one the one thing that really bothers me about the formula, and I know Senator Zwicker, you know this, is that the funding formula, obviously Scott had mentioned, you can't go over the 2% cap. So they keep saying, you could go get more money from your taxpayers. You can't. We have 2%, that's it, that we can go for. But what's bothering me the most is the formula on the one district that is receiving 25 million. The formula shows them that they're only supposed to receive 20 million. And it shows that South Brunswick is only supposed to be cut $400,000. So I don't understand, and this is going to be part of my piece, I don't understand if we're supposed to follow the form, if the state is following the formula, why aren't they following the formula? So it's really upsetting because since 2010, and there's a person in the audience that knows this, 2010, I have been fighting for this district with the cuts that are coming from the state. It doesn't start in 2019. We have seen millions of dollars cut out of this district. And this district, this administration, the prior administration worked really, really hard to ensure that the students were not being impacted. And I commend them for this. But this is beyond. And I'm really angry about it because right now, the governor has stated that he gave over 30% increase more to K-12 support. That making this investment will mean in our 6 years of working together, we'll have increased overall K-12 support to our districts by more than $2.6 billion, a 30% increase. Well, that's great. But to those districts, those 100 districts that aren't getting a dime, it's not. So I'm pretty angry about it. And HOPE is not a business plan. It's not. No company would ever base their decisions on HOPE. No family would base it on HOPE. And we need to we have a plan, but I want to work further with Scott on this, on how the community is going to step up, because you're going to step up. And we need calls and letters to be written to the governor, to the Senate budget chair, to the the Assembly budget chair, as well as all of the senators and assemblymen on those committees. We need to step up and fight for this town.
Lisa, it would also be nice if I think it's a Department of
Yes.
Education.
Oh, that one too, yeah.
That
The
if
Department of Head, right.
If they decided to say out loud, this is not okay.
Right.
That would be cool.
They're the ones that do the formula. So yes, they will also be, thank you, they will be included. And the other thing that I want you all to remember is that several years ago, Governor Christie placed 2% cap on our superintendent's salary. Okay? They said, you can't pay your superintendent more than 2%. That cap is gone. Why? Because the vocalness of the communities to say, stop telling the districts that what they can and cannot do. Allow local control. Right now, in my eyes, this is my own opinion, I believe that the state is in an autocratic situation where they are handcuffing every single district to what they can and can't get for money. You can't get any more money than 2%. Well, that tells me that the state is running education funding. And we're gonna fight this. I'm so, I'm trying to be calm, and I apologize, Scott, but I'm really angry about it. So, again, go to the patch, go to the other locations to find out what the districts are getting, but please do not criticize those districts, okay? We need to work together on this. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Scott. Thank you, David. Thank you, Senator Zwicker. We're going to move on. Okay, so our next order of business is to hear the reports of the committees and the board liaison. So will the Education Committee report?
Education Committee met on 23rd February, President Rogers was there, Ms. Deepa Karthik, Ms. Hernandez, Mr. Morales, Ms. Susan Lockburn, and Dr. Mammon and Mr. Feder were present at the meeting, and we discussed a whole bunch of old businesses along with one new business. Among the old agenda items were implementation of K through 5 writing and math unit, which is underway. It's under full implementation. We also discussed about career academies, the progress and potential for new career academies. And we also discussed about our ongoing equity updates. On the new business, we discussed the role of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. So potential disruption due to wider adoption of artificial intelligence is bound to happen. So we came to the conclusion that in order to harness the upside and reduce the downside, we will be fearless, and we are going to embrace it and make sure that AI will not be an impediment. Yeah, those are the updates. The meeting minutes will be uploaded very soon. That's about.
Thank you.
Education Committee.
Any questions for the Education Committee? Okay. Finance Committee report, please.
Committee met on this past Tuesday, and excuse me. In attendance was myself, Mr. Nathanson, Dr. Raj, Superintendent Feder, Board President Rogers, our Mr. Pulowski, SBA, Ms. Malloy White, and Dr. Mammon, I'm sorry. We really, in a nutshell, because everything was brought out tonight in the presentation, so we just went over the state aid cut, the options and realities that we're facing here in South Brunswick moving forward. I can give you more information at the next board meeting.
Great.
If need be, but pretty much everything that was discussed tonight in this presentation, so thank you. Back to
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just a correction. I believe Mrs. White wasn't there.
That's right, she didn't know, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, correct. Correction. Yes,
Mrs. Luckborn was. So.
correction. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Business Operations Committee? Mr. Nathanson? Any Business Operations Committee update?
No.
Thank you. Policy Committee, any Policy Committee update?
No updates at this time.
Thank you. And negotiations, no update at this time. So to all chairs, please ensure that your respective reports are filed. Thank you. Any liaison reports? To my left, to my right. Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, I just want to update on the South Brunswick Commission on Women. Their 25th Annual Women's Leadership and Career Pathway Conference will be Saturday, March 18th. It includes free admission, breakfast, and lunch. All female South Brunswick students from 8th grade to 12th grade are welcome to register and sign up. You know, I'm listening to everything that's going on here and people making decisions, and yeah, we need to train these kids for our future and decisions. And all of the workshops, it's all these breakout workshops that these children will be trained in different pathways. So it's a really good thing to register for. If you go on their website, the registration is there.
Great, thank you. Mr. Nathanson?
Yeah, this past Saturday morning was the New Jersey School Board Association Legislative Committee. I'm the delegate for the 16th district. The main subject obviously was school funding. And it happened to be that Senator Zwicker and Assemblywoman Jaffa were guests, and Senator Zwicker really hit the funding formula, and a lot of the districts that were getting hit, actually some of them a lot more, like Toms River got hit with 14 million. They were there, and they basically said they don't know how they're going to get to where Scott and David will eventually get. It's because if you think about it, it's, you know, when you're triple the amount that we're looking for, it's kind of tough. So that was brought up. However, like you said, Mrs. Rogers, a lot of the members, the legislative members that were there got money or significant money. So we had to kind of...
Be careful.
Yes, kind of careful on how we said it, but that's basically what it is.
Thank you.
As soon as I get the all the background, the backup stuff, I'll send it out to everybody.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? No? All right, great. Then we will move on to our next agenda item, which is public comments on agenda items only, please. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of the rules that govern this portion of the meeting are available to the public at the back of the room, or you can obtain an advance copy by contacting the board office during regular business hours. We reserve the right to limit each speaker to no more than 3 minutes. Mr. Pawlowski will indicate when you have 15 seconds remaining. It is our plan to listen to each member of the public. We will note all questions and comments made. Once all questions and comments from all members of the public are made, the Board of Education will respond, if necessary, to questions or comments in the most timely and efficient manner available. Please consider not repeating questions or comments made by other members of the public. When recognized, please approach the podium and state your name, your place of residence, and your group affiliation. The first public comment, again, is for agenda items only. There will be a second opportunity for the public comment on any matter. Mr. Pawlowski, do we have any members of the public who are pre-registered?
I have 2 pre-registrations, but both of them listed for to discuss budget or public speak on the budget. That would be our second public speaking.
No, that'd be first.
Unless you want to do
That'd be first. Yeah,
All right,
we
so
could
I
go
have
first.
two persons. First person is Arya Subramanian.
Is that person present? No?
No. Second
Okay.
person would be Alex Wallen.
And that's a no. Alex? All right, very good. We will move on. No comments?
Is anyone else?
Oh,
Any
yes, I
others?
was going to get there. Thank you, though, appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to approach the podium on agenda items? No? Okay, very good. That will close this portion of the public comments. Okay, next order of business is old business, which we have none at this time, nor do we have any new business. Therefore, we will move forward for the consent agenda review and walk through. Mr. Pawlowski.
Okay, everybody, as per our board update, we had accepted some donations from Cambridge Elementary School. We approved some non-public technology orders from some private schools in town. We had an allocation of our Title I School Improvement Award, and we approved and abolished some policies, noting that policy 4216, 5722, and 5512 have been removed from the policy and adoption of the second reading on 16. We have a parental transportation contract, a couple other transportation contracts and tuition adjustments. We also had a out-of-district tuition adjustment, and we have extended some professional services for the Medford Family Psychiatry, for some student services and our special education related services. Student field trips, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and we have a travel for professional development. We also did a rescind a motion for a budget transfer, which I explained in your update, that moves our stabilization aid from being appropriated to 11 to an undesignated fund balance. And we're also removing some old surplus, some old property, violins, music equipment. Other than that, it's personnel. That's your consent agenda update.
Thank you. May I have a motion and second for the consent agenda of March 9th?
So moved.
Who seconded? I'm sorry. Mr. Hernandez second, Mr. Nathanson first. Yes. Is there any comments or questions for Mr. Pawlowski on the agenda? Consent agenda, excuse me. Yes, Dr. Raj?
Yeah, so I have a few questions on the policies that we are voting on. Okay. Policy 5200, the language, it's too confusing. I did not understand it. If you could just explain it. The difference between student absenteeism recorded in the school register for state and federal reporting purposes, and how student absenteeism is addressed to the purpose of district level decision making. So I did not understand it.
Okay. Which one? 55?
P5200.
You want to read it, or you want me to take a note of it?
You can
Okay.
have discussion on it.
All right, so it's a mandatory policy that's coming from the state, and it is revisions in the code, section NJAC 6832-8, 1 through 8.6 required updates. It's important for the district to ensure the distinction between daily student attendance recorded in the school register for state and federal reporting purposes, and how student absenteeism is addressed for the purposes of district-level decision-making. There are rules for excused and unexcused absences, for reporting absences in the school register. That's in accordance with the state and federal reporting requirements. The revision just codifies these changes. So it's just a revised policy of the existing attendance, and it is a mandatory revised policy that has to take place on that. So I'm not sure what specifically, maybe you can, what part you're
There are two types
confused.
of absenteeisms that we are talking about. Two types of absenteeism. So student is absent. So I don't understand the two different types of absenteeism.
Here, it's just, I'll just have the summary. I can pull the Strauss-Mess if you want.
I think that if anybody has a question on policy at this point in time, we've had ample opportunities to read policies and review them. Having conversation now in the middle of adoption of a second read, if you're not comfortable with the current policy, I would say don't vote or vote how you feel, or if you need clarification, I can provide clarification, but to do that now and have policy discussion,
Weren't we supposed to ask all the questions now?
No.
we're supposed to have discussion now.
It was
But
sent
policy
out.
questions, we had policy first read was last board meeting, and all of the policies were provided to the entire full board after our last board meeting. And I requested at that time that any questions with regards to policy be provided to me at least 4 or 5 days in advance of the next board meeting, so that I'd be able to provide specific answers to your questions. If I'm reviewing all policies now in the middle of the board meeting, that's a different process that we'd have to follow.
Let's just see what Scott can pull up on Strauss-Essman. Is there another one?
I had more questions.
No, another policy.
Another policy, just one observation. Policy 5200, the policy update that we got in the summary document, the package 229, it says, quote, P5200 has been revised to include the newly created definition, days in membership, that was added to NJAC 6A 32.2.1, replacing the definition for average daily attendance, unquote. But the version in the container bin, it still says average daily attendance, so I was not sure if it is the right version.
I'd have to go through.
We'd have to go through these policies and read them all over again and see if we can discuss.
It's a mundane policy. It's really just talking simply about how you decide if it's excused or unexcused. That's the whole purpose of the policy. I just don't know what they've changed or what they've asked us to look at. We changed that policy ourselves.
Yeah, I remember the 10 days.
So I'm not sure that's not giving me information, but that's not the part to read. It's the policy to look at.
Right, this is just.
This is just an update, but I'd have to go back. If you don't want to vote on this policy, you have to pull it, and we'll get you an answer, but at this moment, I can't find
That's
that
okay, I'll
this
get the
minute.
clarification later if you can just send me. But the P5200 version that's in the container bin might not be the updated one.
Say that again?
The one that was provided as a part of the package.
That would have been the
agenda.
updated version.
But it has, it still has, it still has the wording that was supposed to be replaced.
No, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you are looking at the current policy that's in the district website.
No.
No, you're
it
not
is-
looking at the revised one?
It is on the agenda. No, it is the agenda package that I'm talking about.
The agenda package. Okay,
Yeah.
So let's take a look.
Yeah.
All right.
If you see that, as per the,
Okay,
as per
let's-
the summary update, the wording should have been revised to days in membership.
When you say summary update, are you referring to the table that they
Yeah.
provided us?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull that up.
So
Right, but
it should have been.
What page are you on? So, and which,
Page 2.
okay. I understand, I just want to understand where she is.
Place to do this, to go back and forth.
Well, right now, someone
At this
let's
point.
just try and figure out.
Let's just figure it out first.
Understand-
yeah. Just tell us where
Excuse
you're
me,
looking.
What is the question you're actually asking?
No, it is just something I noticed.
What is it that you noticed?
The summary table that we received, right?
Yes.
It said that policy 5200 was supposed to revise the newly created definition days in membership to replace the definition for average daily attendance, right? But here you still have average daily
Yeah,
attendance.
because it doesn't, until we vote on it,
You
we
have to,
can't make the change.
that's what I was trying to explain, is that
Okay.
what you're looking at, that's understandable.
the
What you're
older
looking at is the
policy.
old
Yeah, we
policy.
can't change it till you
Once we
approve it.
vote on it and approve it, that will be changed.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
okay.
that's
That's
okay.
what happened.
That's what
I see
happened.
what
That's
you're
it. That's
Oh, now I
valid,
get it.
valid,
Okay.
absolutely, no, that's fine. It's valid question. Any other?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Or you have another?
I know this is taking a lot of, I'm sorry about this, but I had it all backwards. I thought
Okay.
this
That's
is
okay.
where
No, that's all right.
we're
It's
asking
understandable.
questions.
Yep.
So policy 8140 has, it's on student enrollment, and it has, it talks about students who are being placed on home instruction. Do we have home instruction at all?
Do we have home instruction?
Yeah.
We have to by law. If a child is on home instruction approved by our doctor, if it's a medical issue.
Oh,
If it's another issue, special education or another reason, we can provide that, and we have a whole process to provide home instruction whenever it's required.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
you got it.
Any other questions? Dr. Raj?
Oh,
Do you have any other
I'm
questions?
good. No,
Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
You were writing, that's okay. All right, very good. So is there any other questions about the consent agenda? No, very good. So Mr. Pulaski, may we have roll call?
Mrs. Julie Farrar is absent. Mrs. Laura Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Deepa Karthik? Mrs. Alicia Khan?
Yes.
Mr. Raja Krishnan?
Yes.
Mr. Mike Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson?
Yes.
Dr. Smith Raj?
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Pulaski. Moving on to the next section of public comments. This is the second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. You are reminded that the board recognizes the value of these comments and that you are still limited to 3 minutes. At the podium, again, please state your name, place of residence, or your group affiliation. Mr. Pulaski, I'm sorry, do we have any members of the public who are pre-registered?
Not at this time.
Very good. Are there any audience members who wish to make a public comment on any matter? No? Very good. Thank you. So this will close.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. My apologies. We have a member. Again, please just state your name and place of residence and any affiliation. Pardon me.
Good evening. Very loud. Okay, my name is Teresa Johnson. I reside at 1 Frida Lane, Kendall Park. And it's a general question. Dr. Fetter? Mr. Fetter stated that, with the cuts in regards to books for the students. And what I have noticed is that my children do not bring books home at all. When I questioned it with the teacher, I'm sorry,
What grade?
6th grade,
Okay.
south, goes across road south, as well as I have a high schooler. And the teacher states that there aren't any books. I explained to the teacher that my husband and I, we are our children's first educators. They come home to us. If they ask us a question that they don't understand in school, how can we support them or help them if they don't have any school books to bring home with them so that we can go through the books to assist them? And the teacher said that we can help them with everything that they need. I agree to an extent. I am my child's first educator. And if my child has an issue, I would like to go over the issue with my child at home. But there aren't any books for me to look at. Why? Is that because of post-COVID? Or is that the way we're moving with digitizing everything with the schools? I would like to see
Yeah,
books
I
in
can
schools.
give you a short answer, but then what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you don't mind emailing me tomorrow,
Okay,
and that way I can look more into specifics on it.
okay,
Some of the books are digitized,
okay,
so they're not the hard, like you and I had in school, right? We don't have
Right.
the textbook anymore.
exactly.
Same textbook, but it's a digitized textbook, so that could be, depending on which class you're talking about.
Okay,
Like language arts might not have any books per se to come home. Math will either have a digitized or some form of, regular old-fashioned book. I'm not sure which one they use in this particular case. But I can look into that if I knew more. If you're able to send me some information, I can follow up with the school tomorrow and have someone get back to you.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you
Okay.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
Just one other thing.
Yes.
That is nothing to do with the budget.
No.
Good news.
No.
Good news, it doesn't.
No, it has
So
nothing to do with
that we
the
have to
budget.
still do, right? We have to make sure we have it, but I just want to make sure I distinguish the two. So
Okay.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Want to make sure I see all hands. No, very good. All right, then we will move on. Thank you. If there is no further business to be discussed, please note that the scheduled Board of Ed meeting is set, the next scheduled Board of Ed meeting is set for March 16th, 2023 for the approval and adoption of the tentative budget. The board is now going to be moving into executive session. And may I have, oh, excuse me. Oh, wait a minute, I got to read it first. I couldn't find the paper. Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of South Brunswick hereby moves into executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10(4)-6 through 10(4)-21, to discuss the following legal matters. Be it further resolved that the discussion conducted in executive session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matters have been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. Now, may I have a motion and second to move into executive session? Oh, Mr. Nathanson. Oh, we got one down there. Ms. Hernandez for the second. Any objection? Hearing no objection, all in favor, the meeting is now adjourned at 9:25 p.m. Thank you, South Brunswick, and have a pleasant evening.